Do you have to be married to be on your boyfriend's deed? There's no legal requirement for people to be married in order to be on the same deed for a property. So I'm assuming, like in this scenario, if you are with someone and they already own a property and you move in with them, but you're not married, can you be added to the deed? It depends. So you can always add a person to the deed, but if there's a mortgage, as an example, there could be issues because the person financed the property under their name alone, and typically lenders look at someone being added on to the deed as a possible transfer in ownership. It could also affect title insurance because the title insurance would have, if there's a mortgage, the title insurance would have been in just one person's name, and also something like homeowners insurance. These are all things that could be fixed, but they're things that you want to consider before you just add a person's name to your deed. Additionally, there is requirements for certain transfers in Florida to pay documentary stamp tax, and that could vary depending on what purchase price you're using or the value of the mortgage or the type of transfer. So this is also something that has to be looked into. The reason I bring these up is because people can get very ambitious and print quitclaim deeds offline and just add people to the property, sometimes for inheritance reasons or because they are living together and they feel like that would be fair. Sometimes it's friends, sometimes it's family. Oftentimes it is a scenario where two people have lived together for a long time. They're a couple, but they're not married. However, there can often be repercussions for doing this. It might be related to the mortgage. It could be related to the type of transfer. It could be related to Homestead. So you want to look into this further or discuss it with an attorney. Homestead's another thing to consider. You know, if you're added to the deed, depending on what capacity, are you going to be applying for Homestead on the property as well? Do you have another property that you're already claiming Homestead on? So these are all things that should be discussed with an attorney. And another thing that I do want to mention, since we're talking about getting added to a deed, I will oftentimes have clients come and see me who they decided to, again, print a quitclaim deed online to add maybe a child to their property so that the property could potentially avoid probate. But they do this just by naming the child and themselves on the deed. So what happens when you say the property is now owned by this person and this person? If you don't designate the two people as joint tenants with rights of survivorship, then that means by default that they are what's called tenants in common under Florida law. And what a tenant in common is someone who owns an undivided share of property. So you have two people and you just name their names, they each basically own their own 50% of the property. So in that scenario, when one of them passes away, their 50% doesn't automatically go to the other owner. Instead, it has to go through probate in their estate. Versus if you are doing this for inheritance purposes, or you do want the survivor to actually end up owning the property, you have to designate joint tenants with full rights of survivorship. If it's a joint tenant with rights of survivorship, in that instance, if one of the owners dies, then the other owner owns the property 100%. And this is something I see commonly in my practice as not being done correctly, which is another reason why it's always a good idea, no matter how much money you think you're saving by doing it yourself online, it can have huge implications down the road, which can result in a loss of a lot more money than it would have been to just pay an attorney to do it correctly in the first place. All right, so I hope this answers the question regarding can you be added to a deed? Yes, but should you look into it before you do it? Of course. If you have any other questions about deeds, estate planning, asset protection, elder law issues like Medicaid, and you're in Florida, don't hesitate to reach out to our office. We're atCAUSE Law Office, the non-stuffy attorneys, and the link is in my bio.